No.
I thought they showed up with their guns out, with their rifles out.
No, that didn't come until after Donald Trump announced that they were raiding Mar-a-Lago, which was at the end of the raid. It was already over.
Were they literally searching like the First Lady's private drawers and things like that?
I believe so. Like I said, I couldn't see into what they were actually doing. I know that Melania has made a statement to the effect, and I believe they did.
Yeah.
I think they did an actual search, and they did search the residence. Said that this was back in 2012. The judge said to him, well, what do you want me to do? Have the FBI raid the Clinton residence? And everybody laughed about it because it was so stupid. Yeah, I actually didn't realize how aggressive I looked. That honestly was just my resting face. But I like it. But, right. You have two choices. You either smile and make it look like, I don't care, or
right.
You look mad. And I was just like, this is my face.
This is Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags.
You probably know her name because she was the attorney that was called when the FBI illegally, in my opinion, raided Mar-a-Lago, the president's home, when he wasn't the president for a while. It's Christina Bobb, and Christina joins us again now. She's got a great book out called Defiant Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Christina, good to see you again. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Last time, I just told you this before we started, last time we spoke, that video went nuts. People are so hungry to find out what happened there because, Christine, there's still confusion about whether or not the president did something illegal. You and I talked about it at length. I've talked to Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project. I've talked to Judicial Watch, where you are now, about this. And it's clear to me that the Presidential Records Act says what happened that day was illegal by the FBI. But let's reel it back a little bit further than that, if you don't mind. Is it true that the FBI, the DOJ, and President Trump himself, through you and his other legal advisors, were making a deal? You were in cooperation with the National Archives. You guys put an extra lock on. You guys did everything they wanted up until that day. Is all that true?
Yeah, and there was no deal necessary. There was no crime. There was no evidence of a crime. They never had probable cause to open that grand jury. So there was nothing to deal about. As you mentioned, the Presidential Records Act is not a penal code. And so the idea that President Trump somehow committed a crime because he was still in possession of potentially classified records is a non-starter. The Presidential Records Act clearly covers that. And Judicial Watch actually is the only organization that had filed a lawsuit on that pertaining to Bill Clinton, the infamous sock door case. And an Obama judge interpreted the statute and said it is the president and only the president who gets to determine what he takes and what he has to leave at the White House. And it specifically says in that case, not even the archivist, which is NARA, which is the organization that ended up referring this to the Department of Justice. The judge already said, not even NARA can say that the president has withheld something that he wasn't supposed to. So all of this was decided back in 2012. And so everyone was kind of scratching their heads going, what are they doing? Okay. And President Trump met with them himself. They came down to Mar-a-Lago. I met with them with one of President Trump's defense counsel. I was there as the custodian of record. And we said, what do you want? We'll show you whatever you want. President Trump came in and said, yeah, you're welcome. Do you want a tour of Mar-a-Lago? You're welcome to see whatever. And they were like, oh, no, this is great. Thank you. Really nice. And then they turned around and raided the place. There was no probable cause whatsoever, but they violated the law.
It is Christina Bobb. Just so I can let the audience know, and I think I have this right. Correct me if I'm wrong. As you said before we started, you're way smarter than I am. When the president gets into office on January 20th, 2017, every single thing he does until January 20th, 2021 is his to keep if he wants. Am I right?
Yes, that's exactly right. If he wants to take records with him, it's his. Yeah. So he gets to, whatever records that he wants to take with him, he's the only one who gets to determine what he takes and what he leaves.
But he never said it wasn't classified. That's the stupid argument you get from the left. Now, I've heard the argument, and I believe this one, and tell me if this is right legally. If the president says, hey, you five, take these boxes, get them on a U-Haul or put them on a plane, send them to Mar-a-Lago, isn't that in essence declassifying it?
Maybe. But we don't even have to go that far because the sock drawer case interpreted it. The records that Judicial Watch was trying to get in those cases were classified. They were affirmatively classified.
And Bill Clinton took them.
And Bill Clinton took them. That's right. And the judge said it doesn't matter whether they're classified or not. It has no bearing on whether the president's allowed to take them or not. The president is allowed to take classified information with him when he leaves. So. Right. it doesn't really matter whether they were or were not. I mean,
Well, that's the thing. Well, let me stop you here because, again, I'm a little scattered on it, and I love that you're bringing us back. It's Christina Bobb. Get her book called Defiant. The reason I ask that way is because the left wants us to believe there's got to be a proclamation, I declassify, and that doesn't have to happen that way. He can be in the bathroom and yell through the door, hey, go get those records, I declassify. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but what you're saying is take all that away. That's just mess because Bill Clinton literally took it, didn't declassify it. These were conversations with world leaders on tapes in his sock drawer, and therefore it was declassified and he was allowed to have it. Nobody raided his sock drawers, is my point.
Right. And it's funny that you say that, actually. So I am now at Judicial Watch. I was not with Judicial Watch at the time of the sock drawer case, but my colleagues were, and I was talking to my colleagues about the sock drawer case, and the one who argued the case before the judge said that this was back in 2012. The judge said to him, well, what do you want me to do? Have the FBI raid the Clinton residence? And everybody laughed about it because it was so stupid and asinine. And then fast forward 10 years, and that's exactly what they did to Donald Trump.
You know, well, when they did that, I know that you were called immediately. Were you never let in? When you showed up and said, I'm his attorney, did they let you go in? First of all, they've got to show you the warrant. Did you get to follow them around and see what they were doing?
So Mar-a-Lago, I was allowed on site. I was allowed in the premises. I was negotiating with them. As many of you know, and I'm sure you know, having been there, it's kind of like a compound. It's an estate. Sorry, the billionaire word, an estate.
Yes.
And so there's lots of different sections. And the parts that they were searching the office, the residence, and the storage room. And those are all in a little bit different areas of the estate. So they would not allow me to go into the rooms with them to see exactly what they were doing, but I could see between, like, when they were carrying supplies in and I saw the cover sheets go in, cover sheets come out, the classified ones that they claimed to have found on Mar-a-Lago. They didn't. They brought those in with them.
And then they took pictures of them somehow, leaked them to the outside world somehow, and claimed that not only did he have classified stuff, it was all really marked in big red letters, classified or top secret. It was such a ruse. But go ahead. So you're following them around. You knew what they were allowed to go and search. Were they literally searching like the first lady's private drawers and things like that?
I believe so. Like I said, I couldn't see into what they were actually doing. I know that Melania has made a statement to the effect, and I believe they did. I think they did an actual search, and they did search the residence. So, yeah. Just
a horrible time in our country. Christina Bobb, go and get the book. It's called Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. It's available now. Everybody's buying it. Buy 5 and send 4 to your friends. So as that day is unfolding, you know damn well that what they're doing is illegal. What did you immediately think? Did you call NARA? Hey, what are you guys doing? Why did you refer something? We were talking to you guys. We put the extra lock on the thing. Why are they here? I mean, what do you do as far as finding out why this happened?
Well, at that point, there really wasn't a whole lot that I could do. I had met with them 2 months prior, right, and shown them around Mar-a-Lago and had detailed discussions with them, and there really was nothing left for us to do. We had fully cooperated. So by the time the raid rolled around, I was mad. I was very angry with them. At this point, I had already been subpoenaed to testify before Congress. The U.S. Marshals showed up to my house to serve me with a subpoena. I'd been sued by Dominion for $1.6 billion. I mean, I'd been harassed several ways. There was a lot more harassment to come that I didn't know at that time, but we'd already seen a lot of the January 6ers be treated so unfairly. Yes. So I was angry at that point, and I definitely let them know. I mean, all I could do was talk to them. I couldn't stop them in any way, but I definitely let them know what I was thinking and how I thought what they were doing was illegal, how they needed to stop, how they were cowards, the whole thing. I let them have it.
Christina, do you think they thought he really broke the law, or this was completely lawfare from second one?
I think they were hoping he broke the law. I think they were, I mean, I don't know. They didn't say this to me, but I think that they thought if we could just get into Mar-a-Lago, we'll be able to prove that, we'll either be able to prove that he broke the law or we'll be able to make it look like he broke the law. And why I say that is because they were not planning on disclosing the raid. I know that sounds crazy. Everybody thinks that it was supposed to be this big, media stunt. They were not. They were trying to keep it quiet. They didn't want anybody to know. It took them 3 days after the fact, after Donald Trump announced it.
Wait. Didn't they show up in tactical gear?
No.
I thought they showed up with their guns out, with their rifles out.
No, that didn't come until after Donald Trump announced that they were raiding Mar-a-Lago, which was at the end of the raid. It was already over. And once he put that out, then they showed up like that to basically defend Mar-a-Lago, because now they were worried about people descending on Mar-a-Lago. But no, they showed up pretty slick. I mean, a few of them had pistols, but no, there were no lights, no sirens, nothing. And it was very slick, and they were trying to keep it quiet.
It's important to talk about the magistrate that approved the warrant, because this guy is the same guy that recused himself because of his connection to Hillary Clinton in a prior case involving Trump and Clinton, right? So how does this guy end up being the guy who signs on the dotted line? Doesn't that, if that's not a conflict of interest, what is?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think if I were him, I would be very nervous right now. I would be very nervous to be pulled into some sort of conspiracy, because he never should have signed that warrant. And the parts of the affidavit that are released, we can read. I've seen it.
Yeah.
They did not disclose the meeting with Donald Trump. They lied about the meeting with Donald Trump. They didn't say that he said we could see whatever we wanted. He fully cooperated. They turned stuff over.
Right.
We asked to see the storage room. They let us see all of that was required to be disclosed, and they didn't disclose any of it. And instead, they told the judge that President Trump and his team was being obstructive, that they were hiding things, that they weren't being honest, which none of that was true, but they just completely made it up. So they made up the whole story, lied to the judge, lied to a conflicted judge who everybody knew was conflicted, because, as you said, he had just recused himself.
He admitted he was.
He admitted he was. He admitted he could. The reason he recused himself was because he said he was incapable of being impartial. And then
he was on this one somehow. But he was impartial here somehow. He found justice somehow. It's Christina Bobb. Get the book called Defiant: Inside the Mar-a-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Merrick Garland pretended he didn't talk to Joe Biden about this. Now, I almost kind of believe him, because it wasn't Joe Biden running the joint. It was AutoPen. So do you think Andy Blinken gives the nod? Is it Mayorkas gives the nod? Is it Sullivan that gives the nod? Susan Rice? Does Obama get involved? Christina, who do you think gave the wink and a nod to Merrick Garland? Go ahead and do this.
Well, Merrick Garland's the only one that has taken responsibility for this, and that's what we were just talking about. It took him 3 days to do it. They were not planning on the public ever knowing about this. They thought they could do it secretly, get away with it, look through what they uncovered and try to figure out how to frame Donald Trump. And if they couldn't figure out how to frame him, hush, hush, nobody finds out about it. Great. But that's not what happened. Donald Trump disclosed it, and so they had to then acknowledge it. But it took them 3 days to do it. If you remember, after Donald Trump announced it, the news goes wild. Yeah. And then everyone looks at the White House, Biden White House, saying, why did you raid your political opponent's residence? And the Biden White House played stupid. And for 3 days, they went, we have no idea Mar-a-Lago was going to be raided. How weird. I wonder what these rogue agents did. How did they do this? They pretended they knew nothing about it. And then finally, Merrick Garland, 3 days later, held like a 2 or 3 minute press conference that said, yeah, I authorized it. Christopher Wray never took any responsibility for it, but I authorized it. Everyone just look at our pleadings. Don't ask me any questions. And then he left. That was the whole thing. If they were prepared, and if the purpose of the raid was to try to smear Donald Trump, they would have had their press kit ready to go, but they didn't, because they were planning on keeping it secret. So the only one we know for sure, to answer your question, is Merrick Garland's the only one that took responsibility for it. But I think all of them knew. All of them knew, and all of them were okay with. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to look at this and be like, yeah, this is fine. It's not going to be a problem. No one's going to know.
Yeah. Who's going to pay for this, do you think? Will Merrick Garland be brought in? I mean, is there something chargeable here? I mean, it's absolute, what is the word? Something about, it's not obstructing justice, but something, you're using justice in the wrong way. Abusive justice. Yeah. Thank you. Abuse. Is that what it is? Is that illegal? Is that a federal crime? Can somebody be held to account here?
It's
you can't raid the guy. What are you doing?
So I hope, and I would suspect, that the current DOJ and FBI are investigating who was, not just the raid, but who was behind the whole Jack Smith investigation, because the raid occurred before Jack Smith was brought in. So this was all part of this grand conspiracy to try to throw Donald Trump in prison so that he would lose the election or wouldn't be able to run for president from a prison cell, basically.
Obviously, yeah.
That was, somebody concocted that. And so I think that's the nut you have to crack to get to the bottom of this.
Christina Bobb, attorney, author with Judicial Watch Now. We're going to go get her book called Defiant Inside the Mar-A-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Just absolutely love having you on. Let's get into let's finish with this. When it comes to doing what they did to Donald Trump with no evidence whatsoever, with a magistrate that was compromised, obviously, Merrick Garland takes the fall, kind of, but somebody in the White House had to go, oh, yeah, that would make sense. Is all of this, in your opinion, all of it just to try to stop him from running again for re-election? Is that the only reason they did this?
I think it was trying to stop him and to threaten his followers and supporters into submission. Because I'm still a criminal defendant today. I have absolutely nothing to do with anybody's presidential campaign. I mean, I worked for President Trump in 2024, but I was not the one that made him successful, right?
Right.
I'm not a big...
Certainly.
Well, but everybody did, no more than anybody else, right? And so I think the point of going after people like me and like the electors is to scare people out of political opposition.
Well, where are you a defendant right now? Still in Georgia?
Arizona.
In Arizona? They didn't drop that in Arizona because the Georgia case is done,
Arizona,
right?
No, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan was dismissed, and Georgia has not yet been dismissed, but it's falling apart. But none of the cases against any of the Trump supporters have been dropped.
Wow. Christina Bobb.
Yeah, and so then you have all these people crying about Letitia James going, oh, This is weaponization. Okay, fine. Have your tears. That's fine. But where are your tears for those of us that did absolutely nothing wrong and are still being held hostage by these crazy prosecutors who have zero chance of obtaining a conviction? Zero. I mean, they've indicted 60 people and they have zero convictions.
It's Christina Bobb. Now, I'm going to take the full shot because people will email me again and they'll go online and on Instagram and everything else. What is up with that picture? Why would she put that picture behind her? And that is actually, that is your mugshot from where? Georgia or is that Arizona? Where is
this is from Arizona. Yeah, that's my mugshot from Arizona.
So, no, you
don't love that picture?
I absolutely love it. I think that should be your profile picture. So as we're looking at that, knowing that you're being completely a misuse of justice, abuse of justice, all of that. You're being targeted because you're a Trump attorney. You're a Trump fan. I've been targeted on social media, not like you have been. But when you're going to take that picture, what's your thought process? I'm going to put on this face and make them know they messed with the wrong person. What is that?
Yeah, well, I actually didn't realize how aggressive I looked. That honestly was just my resting face. But I like it. But you have two choices. You either smile and make it look like I don't care, or you look mad. And I was just like, this is my face. And then it was like, oh boy, that's intense.
Remind me to not get you mad. Let's get into James Comey in the time we have here. James Comey clearly lied to the FISA court. He recycled news stories that he was feeding to these news outlets to say, oh, look, we should continue the surveillance of Trump Tower. There's a new news story about it. I mean, that to me is a major crime, but the statute of limitations ended. And then you've got him on obstruction of justice, I guess, and you'd certainly have him on lying to Congress. That's what he's facing now. The guy has done a whole lot worse than the two charges he faces now. Yeah. And some think these two charges are not as strong as they could be. What's likely to happen to this guy? Can you make a RICO case out of that, or maybe even treason, and get rid of the statute of limitations? Or can you do nothing on the fact that he lied about the dossier and surveillance, he lied to the FISA court and all that stuff? Yeah,
I mean, I'm not a prosecutor, but I've been a defense counsel. I've exclusively been on the defense side, but I've never been impressed with this whole idea of, oh, there's a statute of limitations and we can't do anything anymore. The whole point of the conspiracy that they all were participating in, the whole point was to ensure that Donald Trump was out of power, that Donald Trump was not in the White House.
Right.
And for, depending on exactly what we're talking about with Joe Biden, the whole point was to ensure Joe Biden was in office and not holding any of them accountable. So I think there's a very good argument to be made that the statute of limitations is told until Joe Biden is no longer in office, which was in January of this year. So
that's really interesting. So in other words, the conspiracy continued for 8 years, basically.
So yeah, I mean, it depends on the crime that they're alleging, that they're charging, right? But I don't know. I think there's a lot of decent arguments that the statute of limitations needs to be told. But I'm not the prosecutor, so
I would love to see that happen, and I hope that that's going to happen. Let's talk about Letitia James. She literally ran for election saying, I'm going to get Trump. I'm going to sue him. I'm going to prosecute him. I'm going to get Donald Trump. I'm not making it up. It's not hyperbole. She said, I'm going to get Donald Trump. And then they all cheered and yelled and whatever else. And then she yelled that nobody was above the law. We know that the case she brought, the civil case, was ridiculous. In fact, the judge said, no, this penalty isn't true. This fine is not going to happen. And I think it's going to be overturned in the Court of Appeals in New York eventually. But when she went after him, saying Mar-a-Lago, that you and I both know very well, is only worth $18 million. I think the ballroom is worth 25 at least, maybe 50. There's
one room.
Exactly. Yeah. There's an empty piece of land next to him between the Intercoastal and the Atlantic Ocean that is listed for $200 million. That's vacant. So there's nothing built on it. So her case was stupid. But let's say that it was worth $18 million. If the banks accepted his estimation or his assessment and they lent him money and he paid it back with interest and they're all happy and they'll do business with him again, what the hell was she talking about, Christina? I don't get it.
Well, I would love to see if the banks testify in defense of Letitia James in her case, because they did in the Donald Trump case. And they did say, we would lend to him again. He paid it off early. We made money. It was a great business decision. The banks can't say that with Letitia James. Although if they do, that would be very interesting because they're basically welcoming mortgage fraud at that point.
Yes.
I do think Donald Trump's case will be completely overturned eventually. Right. Letitia James has made a lot of damning statements that are actually condemning herself. A lot of her tweets talking about how mortgage fraud is a very real thing. And, us little people have worse mortgage rates, those types of tweets that she put out there. They're out there, and especially the fact that she has prosecuted people on this. I don't think the jury is going to like that. I mean, if the jurors are lucky enough to have a home and not rent, I don't know that they'll like the fact that she got a better rate than them just because she lied.
Well, not only she got a better rate than them, and the allegation is that she said that it was an investment property, but it wasn't. It was really a second home, allegedly. Yeah. And that's what she faces. You can't lie about what use you're going to have for the property, and also lied about who was living there and who wasn't going to be living there. The whole thing adds up to this. You got Zoran Mandani the other day out there in front of some court somewhere with a bunch of idiots all chanting, no one's above the law, but if you want Letitia James, you got to go through us first, or something like that. We're going to prove that no one's above the law, aren't we? What she's done is she went after a guy. If she's guilty of this, and we don't know, it's all alleged right now, but if she's guilty of this, she went after a guy on charges he didn't do while she was knowingly doing it. Is this bizarre? Look at my face. It hurts. My brain is going to come out of my head. So these people are so filled with lawfare and hatred and TDS that they will go after him on what they knowingly are doing themselves?
I think that's what we see across the board. They're masterminds at projecting their own horrible conduct onto other people. In 2016, when everyone was chanting, lock her up, because everybody wanted to see Hillary Clinton prosecuted for her illegal activity with her server that she created, completely violating laws, completely disregarding national security, basically flipping off the American people, saying, I can do what I want and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Everyone wanted to see her prosecuted. And Donald Trump said, no, I'm going to let her heal. We're going to let the nation heal. He said, I'm not going to prosecute. And then what happened? They came after him with a vengeance. Everybody was saying, everybody on the left, was saying, oh, Donald Trump, you can't weaponize the justice system. You can't weaponize the justice system. And he goes, okay, I won't. And then they came after him with everything they possibly could. Now he survived, which is incredible. Yeah. But they came after him. And so, just going back to your point, this is what they do. They lie. And the fact that they're coming out now going, oh, poor Letitia James, poor Jim Comey, Donald Trump is weaponizing the Justice Department. It wasn't 18 months ago that this was happening to us, and they were saying the exact opposite. So, it's a bizarro world, but I think Americans are sick of it. I think Americans are absolutely sick of media.
Well, the interesting thing is, well, you're perfectly right in what you just said. The thing that has come home to roost in the minds of Americans is we know that the Democrats shut down the government. The Democrats keep saying that they didn't do it, even though we have proof that they did it. We know that the Democrats use lawfare against Trump. Now that we're using actual laws to go after people who might have broken them, now it's lawfare against them. I don't think the American people are on their sides, or on their side. Yeah. But here's the interesting part, Christina. I don't think the left in this country, those who use the lawfare against President Trump and you and Rudy Giuliani and everybody else, I don't think they realize that they don't have the American support. I mean, why would they continue down this path if they realize that most of America, even those who are middle-leaning left, don't believe them anymore? Why would they keep doing it?
I don't think they care about American support. They rig elections. Yeah. They get mail-in ballots to force their will down other people's throats. They genuinely do not care what the American people think.
I mean, that's harsh, but it's true. But
I mean, how else can you explain it?
But didn't they see that? Didn't they see he just won? Didn't they see the House and Senate go to the Republicans? Are they not smart enough to realize that what they're doing isn't working? Look, I don't want to educate them on it. I want them to keep doing it because it doesn't work. But I mean, the American people are waking up.
They're thinking they failed on, ballot harvesting and
really
getting out the vote. I mean, if that's not what they're thinking, like, I don't know that's what their actions are showing, right? Because to your point, they're not changing their messaging. They're not changing their policy. They're not changing to try to align with the American people. All they're doing is saying, oh, we need to get rid of voter ID. We need to have all universal mail-in ballots. They're trying to change the election to rig it rather than try to win over the American people.
It is Christina Bobb. Go and get her book. It is a great book. It's called Defiant. And they're not all signed by the president, right? That's him actually signing the cover behind you? That would be cool if they're all signed like that.
Yeah, no, I wish I could. No, he was kind enough to sign that one for me.
Defiant, inside the Mar-a-Lago raid, and the left's ongoing lawfare. I want to finish with this, if you don't mind, and I just love talking to you, so I'm keeping you a little bit longer than I think you expected, and I appreciate you being patient with me. Yeah. When it comes to the president sending in the National Guard, the last I checked, when the governor of Alabama would not allow black students to go to schools that were called white schools, they wouldn't allow for desegregation. Eisenhower sent the National Guard because somebody's civil rights were being violated. And the National Guard made sure those children got to go and get the education along with everybody else in the community. How is that different from people blocking roads in Portland that are stopping the civil rights of people who want to travel, or people, they're lighting up fire, they're lighting flags on fire, and they're trying to damage and vandalize federal buildings? How is that the same thing that they are utilizing? Well, they're actually breaking the law. They're not utilizing their rights, because your rights stop where mine start. How is that not the same thing? Send in the National Guard, make sure everybody's civil rights are being protected in Portland and Chicago and everywhere else, and then let's move on. Why are judges making this weird decision that you're not allowed to send them?
Because Democrats are losing on every issue, and they're losing the court battles, right? At least at the Supreme Court. Yes. And so rather than try to adjust and accommodate the American people and abide by the law, liberals are now trying to just ignore the law. And Democrat judges are allowing them to do that, which is a really terrifying place to be, because it breaks down the fabric of our society. If there are no laws, or if there are no laws that people are actually abiding by, and we all just have to succumb to whatever the liberal left thinks the moral high ground is today, they're not going by what the law actually says. They're going by what, they feel in their heart is the appropriate thing to do for people, which of course it's a subjective standard that nobody can ever live up to. But that is the standard now. And it's these I say bleeding heart, but it's not even kind to be. No, it's not. It's not kind to allow these people to get trafficked across the border, but that's what they're doing.
It is Christina Bobb. Yeah, they keep on saying posse comitatus, and it's funny because the left hated the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, but they love posse comitatus from the 1800s. That suddenly is applicable. Am I right, though, Christina, legally speaking, and maybe I'm way off, that if American civil rights are being violated and the local authorities won't stop the violation from happening, that the president has the right to send in the National Guard to restore the civil rights of Americans?
Yes, he does have that right. And he is not sending in the National Guard to pull over people who are speeding or, the routine law enforcement requirements that Posse Comitatus addresses. He's calling them in on federal property, protecting ICE, protecting people who are demonstrating against federal law enforcement. So he is narrowly tailoring it, I believe. And I believe that's ultimately what the Supreme Court will decide as well. It's going to end up there. But yeah, it's not the same thing.
It is Christina Bobb. Get her book called Defiant Inside the Mar-A-Lago Raid and the Left's Ongoing Lawfare. Go follow her on all the social media. A great follow as well. Christina, thank you for all the knowledge and all the time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
When there's a legal issue, I want to talk to this guy. When there's an issue of law, I want to talk to this guy. This guy, of course, is Mike Davis, the founder of the Article 3 Project, good friend of ours. Mike, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, Joe, and thank you for having me back on.
It's always a pleasure. By the way, thanks for inviting us to the get-together. We were going to come to D.C., but with the whole government shutdown thing, we're not even sure who's going to be working, who's going to be doing what. So, I mean, I want to start with that, if you don't mind, because we like going. We want the government to be open. The Democrats are lying. But if you don't mind, let's spell it out exactly what they did. I think I get it. There was a continuing resolution that is a clean resolution. Just keep the spending what it is until November. Let's argue about it from now till November. But the Democrats in the Senate offered up an alternative CR. And what did they put in that turns out to be a poison pill for the Republicans?
Well, several things, but the biggest thing is that the Democrats want to provide $1 trillion in free health care to illegal aliens. President Trump campaigned on the facts that he's going to seal our border and he's going to deport illegal aliens, particularly Tren de Aragua foreign terrorists and MS-13 gangbangers. The American people liked what they heard. 312 electoral votes, all 7 swing states, the popular vote, kept the House, won a comfortable margin in the Senate. Trump has a mandate to lead, and particularly on immigration. And the Democrats are going against the will of the American people. They want to get, again, $1 trillion in free health care to illegal aliens. That is a red line. That is a hell no. And if they want to, if Democrats want to shut down the government over this, that shows you who they care about. They care about their political base, their voting base. Remember, these illegals, they say they can't vote, but it's amazing they still manage to vote. But Democrats are fighting for illegal aliens. President Trump is fighting for real Americans and real America.
You know, Mike, yesterday, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was on CNN. And as he was speaking, and they were taking it live, he said, the Democrats want to do exactly what you just described. And here's how they're doing it, because many are saying they're not doing that. Well, this is what they did. Then CNN pulled away from the coverage because, God forbid, the 2 people watching CNN would get the actual story. So let's break it down even further. Let's go down the rabbit hole. I understand it's on page 57. Is this them trying to say what you took out in the big, beautiful bill that was subsidizing illegal health care, we insist you put it back or else we won't agree to the CR? Did I get that right? I mean, is that what 57 says? It's on the page, black and white.
Yes. Again, Democrats are going to shut down the federal government because they want to provide $1 trillion in free health care to illegal aliens. It's very clear. They can try to hide all they want with their dystopian language that they use, their lies, but that's what it comes down to. They want $1 trillion. Democrats want $1 trillion in free health care for illegal aliens.
And if I understand it right, that money, the billions that were taken out that was subsidizing illegal alien health care in places like California and Illinois, that money was actual pandemic money. That was part of the increase to the budget to cover the cost during COVID, and that should have been taken out anyway. In fact, about $2 trillion of spending should be taken out. That was just a drop in the bucket. That's the specific money they're talking about, right?
Yes, and I want to make this point. It is a federal crime under 8 U.S.C. Section 1324 to harbor illegal aliens. And that includes providing financial assistance to illegal aliens. And that is exactly what these Democrats are doing. And it is illegal. So if the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, for example, is providing financial assistance to illegal aliens, he can and should be charged with a federal felony of harboring under 8 U.S.C. Section 1324. It is time for the Justice Department to take off the gloves here and start charging these people.
Well, I'm glad you went there. It's Mike Davis. Go to article3project.org. Go support everything he does. It's a great organization and actually is based on the Constitution. Imagine that. I'm glad you went there. Let's go to Chicago. Let's go to Illinois, because we know that J.B. Pritzker said, take out your Android or your iPhone. I guess he had to say what brand it was. And make sure you get ICE agents' faces. You should protest. And now we're seeing an ICE agent was dragged, almost killed. We're seeing other agents are stopped from doing their jobs. It's not going to happen. I wish it would. But would it be lawful to go to Illinois and put him in handcuffs and say you're aiding and abetting and you're inciting violence against federal agents? Could that? I know it's not gonna, but could that happen?
Well, I'll tell you what. There is a clear line under the Supreme Court's Brandenburg test between free speech, including fiery rhetoric, versus incitement of violence. And if you cross that line, you should be charged with federal charges, and you should be put in prison. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Joe Schmo on the street or the governor of Illinois. If you incite violence against federal law enforcement agents, you should be charged. You should be charged with conspiracy, aiding and abetting, assault on federal law enforcement. There's no shortage of federal crimes that you can charge if you're inciting violence against federal law enforcement officers. So I would say to Governor Pritzker that he better watch himself, because if he's actually going to incite violence against ICE agents, I have no doubt that Pam Bondi will charge him with a federal crime.
Well, Mike, it's open and closed, isn't it? He said do it, then they did. I mean, the boss of the state, the governor of the state says, go and do this. They went and did it, and the result was violence. The result was arrest. The result was ICE couldn't do their jobs that they're supposed to be able to do because all issues of naturalization fall to the federal government. He doesn't even have a case, does he?
Well, incitement's very hard to prove incitement, right? It can't just be, again, under the Brandenburg test, under the Supreme Court test, there is a clear line between free speech and incitement. And if you're encouraging people to go be violent, and they go and you know that they're going to go be violent, and then they go in their violence, you can definitely be charged with incitements. And so I would say to Governor Pritzker that he better tread very carefully here when you're asking people to go harass federal ICE agents while they're doing their job, because separate from incitements or separate from aiding and abetting, there's obstruction of federal law enforcement, right, and there's conspiracy.
It is Mike Davis, article3project.org. Go and follow him everywhere. MMRD. Mike, I always forget. What is the name over on the socials?
It's bad. It's MRDDMIA. My initials in Des Moines, Iowa. I set this up like 15 years ago.
MRDDMIA. Yes?
Yep.
All right, guys.
Yes, sir.
Well, I didn't get it because I just had to have you tell me. All right, let's get into whether the president can do what he's doing with the National Guard. I know he can do it in Washington, D.C., because that district is under the purview of the Congress. It's under the purview of the executive. You could send people in for 30 days. Then you've got to re-up it or do something like that. We see the numbers of carjackings down 87%, murders down 50% plus. People are actually going to the parks now and enjoying Union Station. That's all good. He sent them into Memphis because the Tennessee governor wanted him to. Great. He can do that. Can he send them to Chicago where they don't want him? Can he send them to Portland where they don't want him?
Yes. If there's violence in the streets and the state and local people will refuse to put down the violence, if there's an insurrection or there's other violence in cities, you don't need the permission of the governor to send in the military to put down the violence. The president has that power under Article 2 of the Constitution as the commander-in-chief. He has that power as the chief executive officer. He also has that power under federal statutes.
So him sending people to Portland, where they just arrested Nick Shorter, who's like a reporter in Portland, it doesn't make any sense. The police in Portland appear to be showing support for Antifa and making sure they have the right to destroy and riot and act like idiots. The president can counter that by sending in the National Guard. I mean, I know that he can to protect ICE, to protect the facilities there, the federal facilities. He can do it to protect the employees and the vehicles. But he can, in fact, if there's no law enforcement at all, and if in fact the law enforcement is helping the bad guys, he can do that under Article 2. Yes,
absolutely. Not only under the Constitution, but under federal statute. If there is an insurrection, if there's uncontrolled violence rebellion in cities where they're fighting against the police. The police are standing down, or even worse, like in Portland, it seems like the police is on Antifa's side. If that happens, then the president absolutely has the power and the duty to go and put down that insurrection or that rebellion.
MRDDMIA over on the social media. It's Mike Davis, article3project.org. I don't want to not get to this, and I want to preface this story because I don't know anything about it. You're going to fill me in on Jeff Clark. But I'm going to preface this by saying I have, on occasion, written a long email telling everybody and their mother off, and then I never sent it. I've done that just because it's therapeutic and cathartic for me. It appears as though, if I have this story right, this Jeff Clark, a former DOJ official, wrote or he drafted a legal memo that never got sent to anybody. He drafted it and didn't do anything with it, and they're trying to take away his ability to practice law. Fill me in.
That's exactly right. And unlike you, Joe, I don't have as much self-control. So if you just go look at my Twitter at any given moment, I actually push send on everything that I think.
Fact check true, yes.
But yes, fact check true. The new Twitter's great because they can't throw me off like they did with the old Twitter. So thank you, Elon Musk. But yes, I would say this about Jeff Clark. He was a senior Justice Department official. He was an assistant attorney general, Senate confirmed. He was providing advice to the president, to the attorney general, to people in the White House, which is his job as an assistant attorney general. He drafted a legal memo that he wanted to share. He drafted it. He never shared it. And because of this, the DC bar has recommended that Jeff Clark get disbarred because they're so partisan in DC. I'm a member of the DC bar. This is truly unacceptable. Now, the DC Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in DC, it's essentially the state Supreme Court if DC were a state. And now the DC Court of Appeals has to decide whether to accept the recommendation of the DC bar and disbar Jeff Clark for doing his job, right? And think about this. I mean, if you're a lawyer and you draft a legal argument, even if it's a novel legal argument, even if it's a crazy legal argument, that's what lawyers are supposed to do. They're supposed to think creatively and advocate on behalf of their clients. This wasn't even advocacy. This was just drafting a legal memo. And now these partisans on the DC bar, these partisan Democrats are trying to disbar Jeff Clark and destroy his livelihoods, destroy his ability to be an attorney. And this is absolutely unacceptable. And that's why just today, the Article 3 project filed an amicus brief with the DC Court of Appeals laying out our argument. It was like 40 pages that we laid out explaining how un-American this is to do this to anyone, particularly a lawyer. You're going to scare these conservative attorneys so they can't do their jobs. And that's exactly what their mission is here with this disbarment proceedings. And this is unacceptable. And we stand with Jeff Clark. We proudly and fully stand with Jeff Clark at the Article 3 project. And if they actually go forward and do this, we're gonna look at other means. We're gonna go to Congress and we're gonna look at taking away DC home rule. We're gonna look at cutting their funding. We're gonna exact political consequences, severe legal, political, and financial consequences if they actually follow through and do this.
Well, how did they know about the memo? Did somebody leak it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was part of the January 6th proceedings. And I think they got the memo when they were doing their stupid January 6th investigation. They wanted to let BLM and Antifa run wild for 5 years. And then they wanted to go after Trump, his top aides, his allies, parents, Christians with the Democrats' lawfare. Look, there is going to be accountability for all this lawfare, including against Trump, his top aides like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, who got sent to prison, Jeff Clark, who they're trying to disbar. They made his life miserable. They dragged him out of his house early in the morning in his underwear to arrest him. I mean, it's just sickening what these Democrats are doing. And if the DC Court of Appeals actually moves forward and disbars Jeff Clark, that is truly a red line that they've crossed. And this is so much bigger than Jeff Clark. This is going to have a severe chilling effect on our legal system, where attorneys are not going to be able to zealously advocate on behalf of their clients without fear that some partisan hack at the DC bar is going to take away their law license.
Well, listen, go and help out article3project.org to make sure he keeps on doing this hard work. And protecting a guy like Jeff Clark sounds to be like a no-brainer, and we certainly want to support you and your organization doing that. Can he take a case like that to the Supreme Court if the D.C. highest court makes the bad ruling?
He probably could. It would be hard to do, but D.C. is a federal enclave. Okay. I think D.C. home rule is clearly unconstitutional because it violates the Appointments Clause. The president runs the federal enclaves, including D.C. Congress passed this unconstitutional D.C. Home Rule Act of 1973 that needs to be repealed. But look, I will go all in on this. I will raise holy hell until Congress exacts painful retribution on DC. If they go forward with this disbarment of Jeff Barr, they need to be defunded. They need to haul in their officials before Congress for oversight. This is truly unacceptable, un-American. This is exactly what you would expect in a third world Marxist hellhole like Washington, D.C.
Find out more about this case by going to MRDDMIA over on the social media. It's up on X. It's up, I believe it's probably on Truth as well. It's Mike Davis. Mike, let's talk about James Comey. I will say this and not fear any retribution or suit from James Comey. He lied to the FISA court. We know that he lied to the FISA court to keep the warrant and the wiretapping of Trump Tower to continue. He was planting news stories in Yahoo News and then going to the FISA judge and say, look, there's a new news story here, that they were actually circular planting these news stories to keep the surveillance going. But the statute of limitations ended on that, which sucks. So now they go after him on obstruction. They go after him on lying to Congress. Will these charges stick? And can anything from the previous statute that's now up, can anything be brought up about Russia, the lie about the dossier, the lie about Hillary Clinton, the lie to the FISA court, or is he scot-free on that stuff?
No, he's not scot-free, and this is just the beginning of the accountability against James Comey, and certainly not the end. I have very publicly called for accountability on this since the Mar-A-Lago raid over 3 years ago. I've done over 5,000 media hits, including on your show many times, Joe, and I have very publicly said that they need to open up a special grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida, and look at bringing charges against for conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241 against all these lawfare Democrats and other operatives. This is the biggest scandal in American history. They politicized and weaponized law enforcement and intel agencies to go after their political opponent, Donald Trump, and to protect Hillary Clinton and to hide her corruption. And that's what the Crossfire Hurricane hoax was about, Russian collusion hoax. And this has been an ongoing criminal conspiracy. Covering up the conspiracy continues the conspiracy. There's no statute of limitations problem. And James Comey may be able to get past a jury in the D.C. suburbs in the Eastern District of Virginia. You might have jury nullification there. He clearly lied to the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2017. He lied to my boss, Chairman Chuck Grassley. He lied again in 2020 to Ted Cruz when he reaffirmed his 2017 lie. He got indicted by a grand jury of his peers in the Eastern District of Virginia. Like I said, you have a Democrat judge, and you're going to have an overwhelmingly Democrat jury with government workers. He might get off in Alexandria, the Eastern District of Virginia. But if they bring charges against Comey and the other lawfare operatives down in Fort Pierce, Florida, they may not have such an easy time getting out of those.
Well, would it be conspiracy? That's why the statute isn't up? Or would it be treasonous? That's why the statute wouldn't be up? Because on the actual individual charges, they charged them with these two charges, as I'm sure you know, 5 days before that statute would have ended up going away. But if you call it conspiracy and a continued conspiracy, that's how you can extend the statute, or there isn't any?
There is a statute of limitations. It's 5 years for most federal felonies, but including conspiracy. But continuing the covering up the conspiracy continues the conspiracy. There's no statute of limitations problem because they're still covering up the conspiracy by lying about it. You have to in order to end the conspiracy, you have to disavow the conspiracy. They have not disavowed the conspiracy. They continue to cover it up. And so I would say to these lawfare Democrats, and I'm very serious about this, and I've said it for 3 years, you better lawyer up because justice is coming. I want to make damn sure That happens. Nobody's above the law, as they tell us. And I've made that my very public mission to bring accountability. I've done it for the last 3 years since the Mar-a-Lago raid, and I will continue to do it for the next 4 years until we see these lawfare Democrats and other operatives go to prison.
Founder, Article 3 Project, it's Mike Davis. Mike, one last quick one, and I appreciate the time and the access today. Ilhan Omar said the most disgusting things about your friend and mine, Charlie Kirk. It doesn't make any sense why she said it. Frankenstein's monster killed Frankenstein with a bullet. The things that she said, that he was filled with hate, so on and so forth. She can be sued for defamation by Erica Kirk and the organization, but why does she have the right to sit there on the, what is it, the foreign intelligence, no, the foreign, something foreign committee. I forget what it is. Why does she have the right to sit on any committee assignments? Why did the Republicans vote not to censure her? You had 4 Republicans that switched, so she didn't get censured by 1 vote. What am I missing? Are the Democrats that much stronger congressionally when they have the power than Republicans? This should have been an easy, Mike, to strip her of any committee assignment and to censure her. That's easy. That's an easy one.
Yeah, this is outrageous. You had Charlie Kirk, who was a great American. He was a Christian, he was a father, he was a husband, just an all-around very good person. And he went to college campuses and invited open debate, something that hasn't happened in college campuses in decades. And he was hunted and murdered, right, for the whole world to see. And then you have this third world Marxist trash like, Ilhan Omar and her cabal of terrorist sympathizers celebrating this. Ilhan or Elon, whatever the hell her name is, Ilhan Omar, who married her brother,
yes,
got into this country by marrying her brother, marriage fraud. She needs to be denaturalized and sent back to whatever dump country she came from, because she is truly a despicable human being. And it is just outrageous that those 4 House Republicans are such cowards that they did not remove this despicable human being from her committee assignments. The Democrats did this to MTG. The Democrats tried to throw in prison President Trump 4 different times for non-crimes, throw him off the ballot unconstitutionally in Colorado, Maine, elsewhere. They tried to bankrupt him for non-fraud. I mean, it's unbelievable that Democrats the Democrats tried to kill President Trump when Joe Biden said that President Trump is the gravest threat to democracy ever, and to underfund his Secret Service protection twice. And then Biden said to put a bullseye on Trump's head and almost got Trump killed twice.
Right.
And then you have these cowards and these 4 House Republican cowards who can't even muster the balls to throw Ilhan Omar off of her committee assignments. These guys need to be primaried and thrown out of the House. They are too weak to serve in the House of Representatives.
Mike, it isn't an allegation that she married her brother to get him into the country. Why is she serving in Congress at all? Is that not against the law anymore? I can marry my sister and do whatever I want? Really?
Yeah. That's the problem. When you import the third world, you become the third world, and you bring these scumbags from these third world countries that absolutely hate America. Ilhan Omar absolutely hates America. She hates everything that we stand for. She's happy that a conservative white Christian father and husband got murdered on TV because she is the scum of the earth. We need to denaturalize people like her and send them the hell out of our country.
I couldn't agree more. It's Mike Davis, article3project.org. Go follow him, MRDDMIA, over on social media. He's a great follow, doing hard work for the American people and for the Constitution. Mike, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.